Awesome. Thank you. Scott Talley here from the empty headquarters of Network in Action. Me, myself, and I, all by myself here, but we're lucky that we have Doug Winnie with us today, and I'm don't even know where to start with the introduction, but Doug is the son of a couple of entrepreneurs, and he saw all of the hardships that his mom and dad went through and has committed his life to making sure that he can help other businesses not do that. But on top of that, there's over 1,000 action coaches all over the world, and Doug, more often than not, finishes first in the country in terms of his accolades around helping other businesses. For 10 straight years, he's been #1 on the cruise, right? So every year on the Networking on the High Seas, we get to take advantage of Doug's generous contribution to help business owners during that time. So we're really fortunate to have you, Doug. Looking forward to hearing your talk today. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. Great to see you guys here. Great to see Moose. Do want this to be a little bit interactive, so you can either be raising your hand, you can typing in the chat window, lots of things, because my job is to teach. Your job is to learn and then do. And one of the most important things is that, well, that you do both. Some love to learn, just love to learn, and then don't do. And then some love to do, but they never learned. Right? And so my parents were some of those people that loved to do but didn't learn. And as Scott said, my mom had a maid service business, my dad had a painting business. And well, the sad part was that we got kicked out of our house 9 out of 12 years. The other sad part is that they divorced after 17 years. Another sad part is that welfare a few times. And, you know, my dad died at 64 because he was poor. Had an accident, no insurance, didn't make it. And my mom, I now support. And the reality is she just hopes that, well, when we go back to casinos, she can like hit it big. She's gonna just take my money, put it in the slot machine, and hope that it works out well. Not because the market didn't exist, not because they didn't have passion for their business, entirely because they didn't learn how to grow a great business. And so over the last 30 years, I have built 9 different businesses. 3 have become multi-million-dollar businesses. This is the 3rd multi-million-dollar business I've built. All have been from scratch, and 2 I've sold. About 12 years ago, I sold the last one, and we just did just under $30 million in revenue. And just by show of hands, what's more important, the top line or the bottom line? What's more important, top or bottom? Yes, the bottom line is more important. So even though we generate about $30 million in revenue, we are actually making $250,000 of profit a month. And that meant I need to have a team. And I grew the business from just myself to a team of about 64 people. And it was pretty interesting. Took me 7 years to do that. And it's really cool to sell and then retire. And then ActionCOACH, a franchise, reached out to me and said, why don't you teach business owners how to do the same thing? Turns out I said yes. Took a little while of convincing. And after a couple of months of evaluation, I decided to join it. And I let them know that if I was going to join, that I would become the #1 business coach in the world. And I was coach 1181st franchisee to buy the franchise. And the salesperson who sold me the franchise was like, yeah, sure, Doug, whatever. And well, yes, it took me 4 years to become #1 globally. And I did it. And I stay in the top 5 or so every single month. And that's really based on client results. So I keep getting these awards year in, year out for the greatest amount of results our clients receive. And of course, ranking #1 on my own revenue model is fine. But really getting that award from the global office about the #1 results coach globally is pretty cool. Still over 1,000 offices nationwide. I'm here in the Houston office. I've known Moose and Lisa since I started this franchise 10.5 years ago. I evaluated multiple networking groups in the neighborhood, went to 9 different ones, and the one that Moose and Lisa were in, I said, hey, this is the right one. This is the one that has the right attitude and a huge growth opportunity. There's only 15 people in the group at the time. And I went on and I said, I will write my check to this group if and only if you want to grow to 50 people. And they were 15. And they said, absolutely. And so it took us about 3 years, but we went from 15 to 50 people inside of that networking group. I retired from networking because I hired employees, and employees do a lot of networking. So really proud of Scott and the leverage ability of you guys as franchisees and then as members to help business owners do what I do, become more successful. And it's sometimes it's tough. Today it's a little tougher than maybe normal, but at the same time, maybe it's a little easier. What if you could have 1,000 members in your group, because this is a lot easier to host. I know my Zoom session allows 500 people, right? So I couldn't get 500 people in one room. I've been to some of Moose's events and it gets about 75 or 100 people in the room. You know what's really interesting is that I can't meet the 75 or 100 people in the room, but I could meet 75 or 100 people here by using the Zoom technology, by using breakout rooms. You can do so many amazing things because of technology that you might not have been able to do before. For example, my slides will show up right here on this little whiteboard, right? And so I've got some slides to share with you, some education to give you, and please remember, the most important thing is the action that you take after learning. My parents were action-oriented, didn't learn. All right, I've been a learner and then a doer. So really want you to be learners and doers, not just learners or not just doers. The more you learn, the more you'll earn. So today I'm going to go through a few different things about learning and then earning, and kind of want to start with, well, let me just share my screen here and start with probably the most important slide that I ever will share with anybody. And I will actually change my background first to be it, and then I'll share it in a larger screen as well. So this is really about being above or below the point. Right, so let me just see how well it shows up. Yeah, it shows up pretty good. I don't need to show. Okay, so above and below the point. A couple of you guys have seen this several times. Scott's heard it. Moose and Lisa have lived by it because I've preached it over and over again. And it used to be above and below the line. They changed it to a point not too long ago, but it's the same thing. Understanding we all have an ability, and that is to be above or below the point. You can really be in blame, excuse, and denial anytime you want, even during a pandemic. It's a choice. Blame, excuse, denial. It's like being in bed and you're letting the whole world run around you. I got into this place of blame, excuse, and denial that first week of pandemic because I moved, of course, to the home office and set my space up in the kitchen, which of course had the large screen TV in the background. And what was I watching? CNN, Fox, all the different things and all those news. And what did they do? They helped me be a victim. Below the point is being a victim. Blame, excuse, and denial. And I get the conversation a lot that people go, well, it's just reality. Yeah, I understand it's reality. Right? If you own a restaurant, right, and you didn't have a drive-through, you might say, hey, if I had a drive-through, if I built a drive-through, if I rent a tent and make it a drive-through, I'll be above the point. If instead, I've talked to many business owners that have closed their doors and they're just going to wait, and tens of thousands of dollars, maybe more, of profits go away because they didn't get above the point. They stayed below the point. Interesting, I guess most of you are in sales. Most of us are in sales. I guess all of us are in sales. You got to sell something, right? Even if you're an employee, you got to sell something so you get a wage. So salespeople who don't get the sale. What's the most common response when somebody doesn't get a sale? Well, they were just tire kickers. They weren't really interested. They couldn't afford it, which is all below the point. Instead, we hold them accountable to saying, well, was it because maybe you didn't provide enough value? You didn't actually teach what they need to hear because they really did want to buy. That's why they were chatting with you. Yet you basically got sold by them. Salespeople are either sell to the client or the client sells to them. Client sells to them about why they don't buy, or the salesperson sells to the buyer as to why they should buy. One's above the point, the other's below the point. Anytime that we're below the point, we end up, well, we can't fix it. We can't fix anything that's below the point because it's outward. Above the point is inward. When you have ownership, accountability, responsibility, the acronym OAR is like being in a boat and you have an oar and you actually get to control where you're going. And it's really the most important thing that I actually ever teach. And yeah, it's what I do. I help people get back above the line, above the point all of the time. And I fall below the point. Everybody falls below the point. It's the speed at which you get back above the point that matters. And you know, we got to help our team do that as well. So quite a few of you guys probably have team members, right? And so team members fall below the point. You got to help them get back above the point, right? I always love hearing from my clients about, well, Mary didn't do this, Sally didn't do that, Bob didn't do this, right? And so that's below the point. I usually ask, well, who taught Bob? And, well, I did. Well, who hired Bob? Well, I did. Okay. Teach better, hire better. Let's get them above the point. Blaming them is all below the point. So we got to figure out how do we get back above the point as fast as possible. And that's what will happen when we are held accountable to do it. So today I want to make sure that we're always staying above the point and then really paying attention to when we fall below the point. I love action-oriented people who will maybe take the opportunity. I'll just share the screen here as a full screen. I think, yeah, there we go, full screen there. So if you think about it, maybe you're like, hey, let's do a screenshot of this. Let me just take a screenshot and put it on the refrigerator, because you could do that right now. Or you could take your phone out and take a picture and then send it to your printer. Live above the point. It's quite amazing when you do it. You will be super successful. I'm curious, let's see here, quite a few people on the call, and not very many people have actual video going. Matter of fact, very few people have video going. So for the few that have video going, I'm curious how often you're above the point. So if you're often above the point, give me a 10. If you're 9, give me a 9. Give me about how often you're above the point. Maybe it's an 8. I don't know. What do you think it is? All right, we've got some 7s, some 6s. Moose is waving. I don't know what that means. Okay, there was an 8. All right, good. All right, that's reality. All right, for those that you know, might say 10, I'm just telling you, we call that denial. That's the bottom. You're in denial. We all fall below the point. It's the speed at which you get back above the point that really matters. And that it's really interesting, right? Because like we could, thank you, Oscar, for typing that in the box. That's a good way to do it too. Type in the chat box. Right? Now, in terms of networking, right? So some of you guys are the franchise owners. Some of you guys have the businesses inside of Network in Action. Right? So when you're out there doing networking, whether it's virtual or in person, right? We're going to be virtual for a while. Right? So what do you do differently because it's virtual? This is the first thing I want to teach. What do you do because it's virtual? Well, let me put it this way. You should type in or click on your picture and rename yourself. Rename yourself to the business or what you do. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm Doug Winnie, and I'm a business accelerator. Right? So what would you say you are? Right? So Lisa could say cabbie consultant, but maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe Lisa should say women's fashion consultant, something else, but not just the title of a business, because title of business doesn't necessarily mean enough. What do you do? I'm in the business to accelerate businesses. I make businesses grow faster because we do the right things in the right order. So what you want to do on any, especially virtually, is be sure you rename yourself. Don't know how to do it? Learn how to do it. Thanks for updating yourself there, Ed. Clearly you're into property tax stuff, right? And it's amazing the technology that's available we don't know. The chat box, right? So what about the chat box? What would you use differently in the chat box? Right? Maybe in the chat box, you say, what I should put in my chat window might be exactly an offer. What do I do? Right? So I'll just post out there something about that. Right? So you have my contact information, and you can copy and paste it, whatever you want to do. Right? Because this is a tool that exists in this virtual networking space. Right? It's not very easy to go out and hand out a business card, right? But it is easy to type in the chat window. What do you do? Right? So I offer complimentary 20-minute pivot strategy sessions or change strategy sessions. I do 2-hour business diagnostics. My phone number's there, my email's there, my name is there. Right? What do you guys do? Right? And would that be valuable to the audience? When you're doing an introduction, how do you introduce yourself virtually versus in person? I was on the Chamber of Commerce event literally just an hour ago, and there was about 50 people there, and they all had 45 seconds to do an introduction. It was the worst introductions I have ever heard in 10.5 years. 90% of them didn't even say what they did. Hi, my name's Doug. I'm kind of stuck at home, a little bit frustrated. I don't know, the news is saying things are going bad and blah, blah, blah. And then the little timer went off. Well, okay, thanks, Doug. And on to the next person. And I'm like, what did he do? What did she do? I don't know what they do, right? And so it was really kind of shocking, the investment people make, but they don't understand how to properly do a commercial. So I know Lisa and Moose and Scott and anybody else, if anybody's been on the cruises with me, probably heard me teach how to do introductions. The best way to do an introduction, or better to say commercial, is to start with a question. So if you're a franchise owner of NIA, your question might be, who in here would like to have more connections with strategic partners and even customers so your business doubles this year? Pretty much everybody would raise their hand. Well, if you could do that for as little as $5 a day, I don't have any idea what the number is, right? Whatever that is, if you could do that for as little as $5 a day, right? Which I don't even think, I don't know what you guys' numbers are, but if you could do that, would that be a good investment? Well, I am the owner of a franchise called Network in Action. I'm just repeating what you guys would do. I don't own the franchise, right? You guys do, for some of you, but that would be my introduction. Start with a great question, make sure it's clear value, and then if you're interested in something like that, contact me. Oh, and I put my contact information in the chat box. Right. There was a franchisee that owns a cleaning company on the last one. Right. Within 5 minutes of me posting to the notepad, she sent me an email, Doug, I want the 20-minute strategy session, because she's an action taker. Right? So some of you guys are action takers. Some of you guys are not. The action takers have updated their names. Some of you aren't. Most successful business owners learn and do. Got to be in the learn and do mode. Now, the next thing I really want to share is this real, well, it's a scary thought. Right? And so let's just see how good this is showing up. Yeah, it's showing up pretty good on my screen. But actually, I'm going to do a share screen anyway, because this is such a critical slide. I want to be sure everybody can see it extremely well. All right, so this is the 4 quarters of 2020. Q1, sales were good, exciting times, economy's up. Then COVID-19 affects, of course, the globe. Then there's a lockdown. I know you guys are all over the country. Pretty much everywhere is still under lockdown, some sort of things. Yep, sales dropped. Q2 is where we are. We're starting to learn, pivot as we say, change our model a bit. The green star there is the restrictions are starting to get eased. As the second quarter continues, right, we're 1/3 through the second quarter, there's going to be some options people take. And these options are going to be quite interesting because you're going to be here. You can be in the bottom, the middle, or the top. And depending on what you do in this quarter is going to determine where you're going to end up over here in the last quarter. Because quite a few people aren't going to do much. They're going to be in the bottom. I've already seen this happen. If you do what I do, maybe you start to see businesses for sale. I'm on quite a few newsletters and I get lots of opportunities to buy businesses. And I buy businesses and I fix businesses and I sell businesses. Right now, businesses are for sale for 20 to 30 cents on the dollar because they're in panic mode. They're restaurants. They decided to close. They're not going to reopen. They're for sale. I'm still shocked. One is a $2 million revenue business for sale for $125,000. I looked at it. It has about $250,000 of equipment that's available that would be sold wholesale and used for $250,000. They're selling for $125,000. And they did $2 million last year. Right? That's where these people are. They're going to be closed or already closed. So, you know, when I think of all of the businesses out there, right? If the market still exists, well, you don't have to be in that category, right? You could be in the category that you end up where it was in the beginning of the year. No growth, but you just survived. You did some things to drive the business and you end up in the same place. And then there's some that are going to be up 40% because they're taking advantage of those that close. And all we have to do is recognize that we're right here, right? We're in this stage right now. All we got to do is figure out what do we do to be smart business owner. You could be closed. A dentist is closed. Chiropractors are closed. There's a lot of companies that are closed right now. Doesn't mean you won't be at the top of this chart at the end of the year. Because there's a lot of things you could be doing, like let's give you a good example. I don't know if anybody here happens to have a dentist practice or a chiropractic office. We call it strategic alliances. Who are your strategic alliances? A dentist should have the strategic alliance of a chiropractor. Everybody has a mouth and everybody has bones and muscles. So if the chiropractor is building alliances, partnerships with these other industries, well, you start to share customers. You share customers long-term, not just today, long-term. One of the things we want you to have is about 8 to 10 strategic alliances. And by the way, strategic alliance is not the same as a referral partner. Referral partners just pass referrals back and forth. But a strategic alliance instead shares customers. Like, think of it as you would do a presentation and you'd share the stage with that other person. So a dentist would be at a health conference, and they would invite all of their dental clients to come to the health conference. And then they would speak, and then somebody else would speak. The chiropractor would speak. The massage therapist would speak. The acupuncturist would speak. The health coach or physical coach, fitness coach would speak. All of those people share the same customer base. Those are strategic alliances. So referrals are fantastic, but you want to get to the next level, which is strategic partners. And building that is really, really critical. So once you start thinking, right, you could be closed, could have some issues. But what do you do differently so that you can get into this drive mode and be in the top of this curve? I'm going to give you quite a few strategies today. I want to make sure you write them down. As I'm talking, I want you to please type in the chat window any question at all, business related. You can say, what's a good strategic alliance for a pub or a nightclub? Anything you want. You could type anything in there. I've been doing this. I have 10,000 coaching hours. I've coached 300 different businesses. Okay? So I have got a crazy amount of experience and knowledge in my head. All I got to do is be asked, and I can tell you either, oh, this is what happens, or this is what I would do, or if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. If you just type it in the chat box, be happy to answer that as time goes on. Yes, perfect question. Love it. Great strategic alliance for web designer. Yes. Melanie, please send me an email because, well, I'll probably copy and paste that all out there, but please, if you send me an email, that'll happen a lot faster. Doug Winnie at actioncoach.com. Happy to do those, but definitely hard to do all the above. But when you think of anybody that's in B2B, right? And so B2B, so a good alliance for a web designer is a business coach. Pretty easy. Every one of our clients need great websites. So a good alliance is a business coach. You want to pick a good one, a successful one, but still, right, you want to have one. But think of this. What about a printer? Somebody does printing. That's another good strategic alliance. A business broker, another good strategic alliance. All of these are fantastic for the B2B. A good banker is a good strategic alliance for B2B. Right? And so you think of those things. If you're in the business of anything related to sports or fitness, it's the ones I just mentioned. It's going to be, so this was a youth soccer academy, right? So pediatricians, dentists, those that focus on kid things are perfect strategic alliances for those kinds of owners. So, you know, and then there's a process, right? So I'll quickly give you the processing. I opened it up. It starts with a, hey, I'll just use the Youth Soccer Academy. Hey, pediatrician, I own a youth soccer academy. I got so many kids, and you know what they have? Bad teeth. And I was wondering if we could figure out a way that I send my kids and the parents, of course, to you. And if you've got any kids that want to get into soccer and get better at soccer, you send them my way. And if that's interesting to you, let's set up a meeting. In short term, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. Start with what's in it for them. You must say, I have clients that I think could be good customers of yours. Would it be worthwhile to have a 15-minute conversation to see if this could go forward? You start the conversation, next thing you know, they say yes, you say great, right? And you know, inside of the Action Coach system, we actually end up with 5 interviews. We call them interviews, they're meetings. Right? One of the questions to ask in that very first meeting is, where would you like to be in 5 years? Do you want to be 3 locations dentist? Do you want to have 5 locations youth soccer academy? Because you want to match your desires with their desires. Because it's a strategic alliance, right? It's about your growth and their growth. Because 1 + 1 is going to be much greater than 2 if you're aligned well. I'll just tell you, at the end of that first meeting, if it sounded like it went well, you say something like, well, Marianne, this was a really good meeting. I really appreciate you investing 15, 30 minutes with me. I kind of think that maybe we should do this again. And if you think so, the best thing to do would be to schedule 4 more meetings. Let's schedule 4. If this makes sense, we'll schedule 4. And if we have to cancel, we cancel. If we reschedule, we reschedule. But let's go ahead and schedule 4. And so at the end of the 4th, if we're still dating, then we're going to be in really good shape. If sometime between now and the 4th it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. It's okay. But if it makes sense to you, let's go ahead and schedule 4. Right? And you'll end up scheduling 4. And it's quite amazing how powerful this can be. I have 5 real good strategic alliances. And we get up on stage and we share our databases. And people come and they learn. They learn from the business attorney. Some of you guys know them, know her name is Joanne, redhead, been on the cruise a few times. All right, great strategic alliance. Website company, online marketing, great strategic alliance. CPA, another great strategic alliance. So B2B, these are all going to be really good. And what's amazing is we all get up on stage and we do our little thing and people go, I need a new CPA. Oh, I need a business coach. You know, what you said about internet marketing, the guy I'm using right now ain't so good at that. I think I need to talk to that person. This is how 1 + 1 is much greater than 2. So that is one of the strategies that I would be working on right now if by chance you did not have anything else to do. Now, even if you had stuff to do, I want you to be doing it anyway. So the rest of our time together is about this. Right? It's called the 5 ways. It's 5 ways to massive profitability. And it's a pretty simple concept, but not many people do it. I suspect Moose and Lisa did it well years ago. I suspect Lisa and Moose have forgotten it. So I'm glad they're here so they can be refreshed and learn it, because this is really where I promise you, well, this is where I guarantee results. Our clients, we guarantee positive return on investment in coaching, or coaching is free. And the reason I can guarantee it, and how it's only happened 3 out of over 300 times, so better than a 99% success rate, is because of the 5 ways. So let me just go up here, point to the first one. First one is number of leads, lead generation. Right? So strategies inside of lead generation, first let me say this. You want to have about 10 strategies that are generating about 10% each. So here's a real good problem that I experienced, many of you have experienced. With this current pandemic, something disappeared. Face-to-face networking. Now, we had about 60% of our leads coming in from face-to-face networking. So that means that first month, our leads dropped by 60%, 60%. That could have a pretty significant impact on this 5 ways number. So practice what I preach. Have 10 strategies, each generating about 10% of your leads. Of course, networking is one of them. Right? Another one is strategic alliances. Kind of went through that pretty well. Right? Another one is search engine optimization, SEO. Another one would be pay-per-click. Right? So we teach about 75 or so strategies inside of lead generation. You want to get good at them. Right? Now, by the way, it's not the first place that I work with clients, because lead generation usually requires an investment. And so some businesses can make investments, right, but not necessarily the first area to work on in improving profits. It's just an area, a very popular area you know, this is network in action session. And so network in action is about generating leads. So, you know, and you guys are making an investment either as a franchisor, franchisee, or business owner. Everyone's making an investment, right, in networking. So some of the things I talked about is not just do the networking, but be sure you do it well, which means change your name on the title, have a good commercial, not just an introduction, but good commercial. Be able to use the chat window properly. So, you know, it's not just do networking, it's become good at networking. Now, the second area is conversion rate. This is the sales process. Now, this is quite interesting because I have to say that most of our clients and most business owners that I met are pretty lazy about their sales process. And it's kind of funny. They realize they're lazy about their sales process only today because the market is so big in America. It's so big. There's so many leads coming at them. They actually don't have to be that good at conversion rate because they just keep getting business, right? And so conversion rate is starting to pay attention now because we have fewer leads. So here's a couple strategies I want to make sure every one of you guys are doing and doing well. Number one, have a uniqueness. I always ask this if I'm in a networking session, right? And so I see Brenda is here, right? So let's say Brenda's here. And so I'd say, so Brenda, what's unique about the Burrell Agency? Why would I buy from you versus somebody else?
Hi, Doug. We are unique because we offer training.
There you go.
All the assets are owned by the customers. Usually web designers or other online agencies contain the website login and passwords or hosting, and they never release that information.
Perfect. So
you don't
no, but that would be one uniqueness, right? But what else, right? So some of the web companies we work with have become the #1 on their own search engine. How valuable would that be if you're talking to somebody, right? So, or you know, what's unique about you know, any let's see, well, what's unique about the Youth Soccer Academy, right? Why would I send my kids to your academy versus some other academy? And you'd come up with something. Now, it's interesting, the USP sometimes needs to be created. Your unique selling proposition needs to be created based on what does the market want. So we're all old enough, well, not all of us, I see some of your pictures are kind of young, but long time ago, there's this company called Dominos Pizza. And they basically did a USP study. What was the biggest challenge that pizza had and delivery had was that it was cold, took too long, tasted bad. Domino's fixed 2 or 3. Deliver it fast, and if it's fast, it's going to be hot. They didn't actually work on good quality before. Now they're much better on quality, and they're no longer focused on the 30-minute guarantee. But you understand, what does the market want? And so you might want to create a unique selling proposition, and then the second thing being a guarantee. What is your USP, and what is your guarantee? Kind of mentioned a little bit about my USP already, right? So I've sold multiple businesses. My parents were entrepreneurs. I've been ranked #1 in the world, always ranked #1 in North America. Those are some of the uniquenesses that exist as me as a business coach. Those uniquenesses are pretty hard to equal. Your uniqueness cannot be, I'm great at customer service. Most important part of the USP is the first word, unique, right? Then the guarantee. I already mentioned to you guys what our guarantee is. We guarantee an ROI on coaching. So if you're in a one-to-one coaching program, we guarantee you're going to get your money back in 17 weeks, or coaching is free. Turns out our average is 7 times. We don't even bring somebody on unless we can get you 3 times. Right? So what is that USP and guarantee? Right? Those are 2 of the things in conversion rate. Typically, when you put that in, plus USP, guarantee, and you throw in the third one, your conversion rate doubles. The third one is scripts. You write down your sales process and you stick to it. You keep following it up all and over and over and over again. You keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep following it, and you learn what you need to change. If it's written down, you can improve it. If it's not written down, you cannot improve it. So you want to be sure that you write down your script and you follow it. So conversion rate, USP, guarantee, and scripts typically doubles somebody's conversion rate. Right? By the way, I see a couple of website companies here. I want to be sure people understand the value of a website is two things: lead generation and conversion rate. Pretty much everybody knows a lot about you before they even talk to you. So make sure your website's very valuable, not just on generating a lead, but also about helping convert that lead to be a client. All right, so now you multiply leads times conversion rate. So if you had 1,000 leads and a 30% conversion rate, 1,000 times 30% would get you 300 customers. So now we have customers. Now we can start to work on getting them to buy often, which is number of transactions. Getting them to buy more often. And well, it doesn't matter the industry we're in. You can be a realtor, and you can have multiple transactions with a realtor, right? You can be a mortgage broker and have multiple transactions with a client. Some of the simpler ones, like lawyers, right? Lawyers are, they might do contracts, right? They do contracts with their customer, right? And this is, I always pick on lawyers. Maybe there's a lawyer here. It's really kind of funny that I always ask the same question to the lawyers. Oh, do you do wills? Oh, no, we just do business contract. Well, could you do wills? Well, yeah, but I don't do wills. Oh, okay. Well, if I was an entrepreneur, if I owned a law firm, we'd do wills, and we do probate, and we do business contracts, and we do lawsuits, and we do a bunch of things, because I would be a business owner, not a lawyer. And so part of it is making sure we're business owners, not just having a job. And what is all the products that we offer? Right? So make sure we have a good product list and make sure the customer knows all of the products. So I got several clients that are in home building or home remodeling, right? So what else could a remodeler do if they just remodeled somebody's kitchen? Make sure every client knows they also do outdoor kitchens. Make sure every client knows we also do small baths. We do large baths. We do second stories or third stories, or we expand. Today, every one of my clients that does anything related to homes must sell, stay in place, age in place remodeling, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't plan to go to any retirement home anytime soon, right? Nor would I send my parents to a retirement home, right? So I'd want to be able to pushing the fact that, you know, we can do that. Number of transactions. So make sure they know all the things they can buy. Here's another simple strategy for number of transactions. Plan the next purchase. Pre-plan the next purchase. Ladies' hair salons do this well. Men's hair salons don't, right? Most women's salons, they book the next appointment before they leave. Oh, let me get you on the calendar before you go. If you need to change it, that's okay. But be sure to put it on the calendar. It's a simple strategy. Right? Plan the next purchase. So again, lots of different ways to get people to buy more often. Right? Average dollar sale. Average dollar sale is on average, how much do they buy from you at a time? Right? So there we go. Is that Lisa? Yes, right? Gift cards, another great way. Oh, by the way, oh, you just bought a nice dress. Would you like to get a gift card? Yeah, right? Fantastic strategy for increasing number of transactions. By the way, any business owner that does gift cards, just so you know, only 60% of gift cards ever get used. It's a huge strategy if by chance you get to be the one that keeps the money. I don't know if Lisa would get to keep the money, Cabby would. But still, if you have the ability to do that, that's man, what a strategy. Average dollar sale. So here, we're all, I'll say victims, but we all participate in average dollar sale. If you go to Costco or you go to Sam's Club, they increase the average dollar sale by selling not just one roll of paper towels, but 18. You can't buy one roll, you must buy 18. I guess today you can. Used to say toilet paper, but anyway, you can, I guess you can still buy toilet paper nowadays. So bundling, what could they buy? If I go back to the attorney, right? Oh, by the way, client, yep, I'm updating your contract here. Something you can do is for you and any one of your employees, we update wills or create new ones. So create new ones for $6.95, and then we'll update anybody's existing one for $2.50. Put it all together, and now we've increased the average dollar sale by bundling something together. Another way to increase average dollar sale is make sure you have a checklist. What could people do when they're buying that product? If you buy a gallon of paint at Lowe's or Home Depot, the cashier should have a checklist next to them to say, oh, by the way, do you also need this, 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 and this? One of our clients has been Shipley Donuts, right? Getting somebody to get a dozen of hot donuts, and they're going to drive away, right? And you happen to be that person, like I was, right? I go and eat that donut. What do I want? Something to drink. If they didn't ask me and I forgot, well, guess what? They lost the sale, and I need a drink, right? So average dollar sale could be checklist, upsell, bundling. Make sure you have strategies in place to increase average dollar sale. Multiply customers times number of transactions times average dollar sale, you get your revenue. And then strategies to increase profit margins. A couple different strategies are mind-blowing. Here's the simplest one ever. And by the way, we start working with clients, we start here, and because this usually requires no investment. If every one of us on the call today called Verizon, called T-Mobile, called Comcast, whatever your cable provider is, your internet provider, and say, just ask this question: am I on the right plan? That person on the other line to go, let me check. And they're going to do some little computer checking, and they're going to come back. And if you haven't done it in 6 months, they're going to say, well, you can actually get a few more minutes or unlimited or much bigger bandwidth, and it's about $50 less a month. And we all say, that's great. What's the catch? You know what they say? There isn't one. A commodity business has to keep lowering their prices. And these are all commodity businesses. So if you plan to call the commodity business every quarter, you will lower your costs just because you made a phone call. It's pretty amazing. Like I did it at Christmas time, $100 less a month, and I went from, I don't know what it was, to gigabit. Gigabit, it went up, I don't know, 5-fold, and $100 less a month. Because they have to keep up with their competition. Competition has this and they have that, that's it. So a way to increase your profit margins would be decrease your costs. If you set a goal, like I look at my 2019 numbers and say, let me just figure out how I decrease costs by 10%. Just 10% total. Cut a little things here, cut a little thing there, do some things, right? Perfect, look at that, Melanie, $400 a month. Woo! Isn't that shocking? It's amazing what can happen, yes. Another way to increase profit margins, this one is probably the most important. I'll use Shipley Donuts again as an example. Some of you guys probably have Shipley's nearby, right? So if you happen to buy Shipley's Donuts, you are currently paying about $1.75 more per dozen than you used to pay. All because of yours truly. Because they used to be about $2.50 less than Dunkin', $3.50 less than Krispy Kreme. And I asked a few questions like, well, I guess it's because your donuts aren't as good. And they're like, well, oh, no, they're much better. As a fact, we throw them away every 4 hours. I'm like, by the way, you don't tell anybody that. But yeah, Shipley throws out the donuts every 4 hours. Why don't you guys tell people that? Anyway, So we coached them into understanding the value proposition. What's the competitors charging? And make sure you charge based on value, not on price. We are all value shoppers. We think we're price shoppers. We're not, nor are your customers. Be sure you sell on value, not on price. Check out the competition. Make sure you know what the competition charges. You might not have to be the now bankrupt Neiman Marcus, right? But you could be the Nordstrom, right? You don't have to be the Walmart, right? By the way, Walmart only works because they have $1 billion invested in systems. So if you want to be the low price leader, maybe you need to invest $1 billion to be the low price leader. And when you multiply all these out, you multiply those 5 together, you end up increasing your profits. The really interesting thing is that, well, we end up with a mindset that is tough. It's very tough to change our mindset. All of these habits, these synapses wired in our head, are actually much more like a circuit board. And when we have the circuit board wiring, it's very hard to change our habits. How do we change our habits? Well, accountability. You have to be held accountable or have somebody hold you accountable to achieve the new habits. Eventually, the new habits become fixed, just like a circuit board. And it gets easier and easier. I used to have the habit of terrified of public speaking. It existed in my head. It was wired in. Turns out it was wired in because when I was about 9 years old, I was the first to get up on stage because I was in a little choir. And I was first to get up on stage. And guess what happened when I jumped up on stage? I walked up on stage, I fell over. I tripped. And what does the audience do? They giggle, they laugh. That became embedded in my head. Being judged is the biggest fear of public speaking. So that was embedded in my head at 9. At 42, I buy a franchise, 43 years old, I buy a franchise where it's probably pretty important to be influential, be a good public speaker. And I decided I'm going to have to figure out how to get over this issue. I took classes, I did things, I rewired my brain. So now I'm no longer concerned at all about public speaking. The largest audience I spoke to now is 3,200 business owners in a giant stadium. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun, right? But it is about rewiring our brain, right? And so, you know, I think we're getting close to out of time. Is that right, Daniel, Scott?
We're about 7 minutes. Probably got some questions. It's good stuff.
Excellent. Good, good.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I've just raised the price of our franchise 10 grand, Doug. Thank you.
Well, when you do it by value, yep, you can. All right. I mean, if you did the ROI analysis, you know, you could. I'm serious. And, you know, you absolutely can. Only for renewals, by the way, not for new ones. New
That's
people can
absolutely
get the old
right,
price.
right.
Renewals, all the people renewing. Yes. Good, good.
Let me ask you this, Doug.
Sure.
Other than the things you mentioned, I mean, let's get away from any kind of, you know, what am I looking for here? Like cliches, but like for the business owners on this call right now, what would you say are the 2 or 3 most important things? And I appreciate it. I offered $1,000 to Doug's favorite charity for every time he said the word pivot, and he didn't say it at all. So I'm good there. But obviously that's a word right now. Like, what are the 2 or 3 most important things for business owners as they start to gain traction again?
I promise you, it's activity, right? And so if we're not communicating a lot to our existing customers, well, the competition is. So communication. And you know, this is what I'm noticing. So many people don't pick up the phone. Everybody just loves to instead send an email.
We talk about it all the time. I know you as a business owner, I'm a business owner. I get, not counting calls, robocalls for medical health care, you know, or I don't get 3 phone calls a day from a true old-fashioned salesperson. And if I do, they don't call me multiple times if they leave a message. It's crazy.
Yeah. You know, we're doing these interviews with business owners. So if anybody wants to be interviewed, we're doing interviews, and we're sending out the interview to 12,000 people, right? So an interview where we ask you, you know, the greatest impact. We also ask you, like, what would you recommend to a business owner? What's a mistake you made that somebody doesn't have to make, right? So my team doesn't like to call to schedule an interview because the wiring is set up that it's a habit. They think that there's rejection. They're not telemarketers, right? So I had to work really hard over the last 4 to 6 weeks to help them schedule interviews, right? So now we're passing 200 interviews with business owners.
Yeah.
And we're sending out different newsletters with that content.
I want to use an analogy, much like your life where your parents and the struggles they had inspired you to give yourself something different. That's sort of the attitude we've tried to take at corporate, and for all business owners to look for the opportunity in this mess we're in, because it's out there.
Yep, that's huge, right? So communication is the first one, right? And then really strategize. So, you know, you just got to strategize. And I guess maybe the most important thing, understand there is only one real virus.
Great
the
point.
News.
Yeah.
The news is the real virus. I mean, I agree that, you know, we could get sick and some people die, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. We did, you know, change things. We did do a lot of things to prevent it from happening. And yes, it's probably going to come back and bite us a little bit more. The reality is paying attention to that news, you know, they're not sharing the other statistics, like 0.0, or was it last time we did the math? It's 0.0006 zeros in a 2 probability of you dying from COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do the math compared to lottery or
Right.
getting struck by lightning, but it's 6 zeros in a 2 after the decimal point for us dying from COVID.
When I was growing up in Houston 40 and 50 years ago, we were the murder capital of the world. There were more people being murdered every weekend, which thank goodness has changed. Well, listen, this was great stuff. If anybody has a question, by all means, put it up here real quick. If not, faith and hope are not closed. Great job, Doug. I really enjoyed visiting with you, enjoyed listening to you. I appreciate your time. I know how many of these requests you get. So keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And like being here, and keep doing what you guys do, right? Get out there, lead business owners so that they can do what they need to do, because that's what we have to do. We have to lead them to do what they need to do. And if you have employees, you got to lead them. Yeah. It's a very powerful. So thanks for having me. And by the way, I've just booked 2 cruises. So I'm going in September. I'm going in November. So I'm hoping there's a cruise being booked sometime soon.
Awesome. Doug, if you'd like to type your information in the chat, just in case anybody wants to reach out to your organization, by all means, do that, please.
Well, absolutely. Good news is I already have.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.